I am here with Lori Donica, and we are going to be talking about finding your authentic voice. And I think that that is just an amazing journey for people to go on, but it's also rife with landmines, like societal, familial, cultural. There are so many things standing in the way of our authenticity. How do you combat that with with all the roadblocks?
Well, I kick the roadblocks down and go through them basically. Now, could I have said that 2 years ago? Absolutely not. I wasn't even willing to go around the roadblocks. I just let them stop me. So I turn around and go backwards. So, and that started to no longer serve me, which I can say that now, but before, I mean, it did, obviously. Is everything in life is a lesson? We just have to be willing to get the learnings. And if we don't, it'll just keep presenting itself until we do. And that's basically what happened because, oh, I grew up as the perfectionist, had to do everything right. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good enough. And a people, classic people pleaser, did everything that everybody else wanted me to do, what I thought they wanted me to do, acted, did, so I really truly lost my voice. And
Yeah,
that authentic person that you were when you're a kid, where you just kind of say and do anything and it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I went from feeling that unworthy and unloved, unheard, unseen to I love and I hated myself to I love myself. And yes, I still have that little bit because I am human. Of every once in a while, it comes up that anxiety about being judged about what I say and do. And I step into it, embrace it, learn from it, and then the growth just explodes from there. So it's
absolutely.
constant. It's constant learning, constant growing.
And that's part of evolution, is to not sit in stagnant energy. And I know for me, growing up, perfection was the bare minimum, is the way I always word it. It's like, oh, if it's not perfect, you obviously didn't try hard enough. And that was like my own inner voice telling me that. And I've always been very loud and very weird, but I hated myself for those things that made me so different growing up, because it meant that I didn't fit in, and and obviously there's something wrong with you if you don't fit in. God forbid you leave the herd.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was just, oh, I remember growing up. Um, yeah, when I tried to step out and it didn't work, I would back off and shut down. I would literally isolate myself. So I'm like, nope, not doing that again. Put that shield up.
Yes.
And yes, that shield protected me from feeling unsafe and unworthy. And yet, as a kid and growing into early adulthood, every time I put the shield down, it felt like I got shot between the eyes. And so you put the shield back up, and guess what? The shield gets bigger and heavier and heavier. And it got to the point at 57, I finally dropped the shield.
Yeah.
And now I'm authentic and I've created a new, not necessarily a new identity, but I've released all the old identities that aren't serving me to find the actual identity of who I am and being my authentic self. So I'm 57. No, I was 57 when I started the process. I'm 61 now. And I left a 35-year abusive marriage and just just a little over 2 years ago. And I've discovered the new me. And it was amazing that it's actually existed since I was 4.
Nice. That's awesome.
I hid it. I hid it so deep that I didn't even know it was there. Everybody else around me seemed to know, but I did not know.
Yeah,
You
and
want to
it's
hear what it is?
yes, I would love to.
So a year after I left my marriage, I did a major uh, 3 days intense with my coaching mentors, and they dug down. And what I what I found out was that I hated myself as a child. I hated who I'd become, and when that hate grew, so I hid even more. And then a few days afterwards, I realized who I truly was, which was a gay woman. And I'd known since I was 4.
Yes, I love it. So what a lot of you don't know, because this will not go live, go up on the YouTube channel until in a few months, we are actually recording this during Pride Month. We love Pride Month. I love Pride Month. I am a very, very happy queer person. Um, and for me, like, my authentic voice, I think a misconception is, yes, we're born as who we are, but if we have certain stifling things, we don't always admit it to ourselves until later. So, like, I always knew I was queer from a young age. Like, oh yeah, I looked at everyone and was like, yay, people. I wasn't like boys or girls. I was like, people, yeah. But I didn't realize I was non-binary until I was out of abuse, like you. That once I was out of an abusive situation, I actually stopped and thought about it. And I'm like, wow, the only thing that made me feel really feminine and girly and like a real woman was abuse. That's it. That's the only thing that makes me feel super girly. And once I realized that, I'm like, oh, I'm neither here nor there. I'm feminine presenting non-binary. I love it. And it makes me feel so much better. So like I feel like that's the same thing with you. It's like you just feel better about yourself when you're living your authentic self. Like once you get over the hurdle, the giant hurdle of self-hatred, and really figure out who you are, it's like, oh, that's nice. I like that. We'll keep the skin we're in. That's lovely.
Yeah, because now I feel like I can breathe.
Mhm.
And that was the thing is I mean, I would walk around, I swear my hand was in front of my mouth most of the time
Mhm.
because I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know. Like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that back in the 60s,
Mhm.
that was not acceptable. So at 4 years old, my little kid brain going, my unconscious brain's going like, nope, that's not acceptable. And when I did come out to my mom, she goes, no, you're not. That was a response. She goes, you like men. I said, no, I have a healthy respect for them, but no. And I was married for 35 years to a man, and I walked away. And it was within a year that I discovered actually who I was. And within 2 weeks of figuring it out and accepting it, I found a partner that actually accepts me for exactly who I am. And the communication is beautiful. And we are both able to use our voices. And that just goes to prove to me that no matter what, and to other people, and not that I need proof, but it gave that belief and trust in myself that it's okay to be exactly who you are. And if people aren't going to accept it, they don't belong. Then they're not my people.
Yeah. I
Now, your
always
mom might be a little different thing, but
yes, I always say if someone has a problem with me, that's a them problem. It's not a
yes,
me problem. And
right.
it's it's amazing what we can accomplish once the dick is out of the way. And I mean that figuratively and literally. I mean that as heteronormative, but I also mean that as the patriarchy. I also mean that as societal norms. Like once we break
Yeah,
out of our societal norms, how much more we flourish. You know,
yeah,
once that toxic masculine weight is removed, it can really bring out what your authenticity looks like without it being right or wrong. You know, because when we put those, this must not be okay. And sometimes we do that for our safety. You know, like you said, you are from a different generation than me. Like I had like queer alliance in high school. Once I moved out of my little kitty hometown that had very few people and moved into like went to school at a bigger school, there was a gay straight alliance, you know, group that met weekly where we talked about being queer and all this stuff. And I think I always it being Pride Month and everything when we're recording this, I always thank the people who came before me because I'm like, it's because of you guys that I don't have to be as scared to death that something's going to happen to me for being out at
yeah,
this age or traveling alone. And so many people had to sacrifice so much to get us where we are, that we
Yeah.
can be our authentic selves. And I think that that's a big part of authenticity. Like, it's not just an us thing, it is. Like, it's all about us. And think about the people who came before us. Like, if our, in my family, several generations back, three generations back, so my great grandparents, all alcoholics, all of them, like both sides, very much so. And then my grandparents, both sides, went, nope, we're not continuing this. And so they dealt with alcoholic rage and everything so that we didn't have to. And then they insisted not to have a lot of alcohol around, or any. Like, growing up, there was so, and then that went down to my parents' generation, that drinking wasn't the norm. It wasn't, it was, and we talked about it. It was, great grandpa was an alcoholic. Yep. And so we all knew it from an early age, so that we could be aware that that was something that was, in a weird way, in our bloodline, that could affect us, that we may have a propensity for it. And so when I think about authenticity, it's like, it's not just all about us. It's like, it's the people who forged the way for us, for it to be easier for us. It's not easy, but easier. It is easier for me to be queer than it was for you at 4 years old, I gotta say.
Exactly. So, I mean, I buried that for 56 years.
Mhm.
Can you imagine living a life that wasn't meant to be and then discovering it? And it's like, bam, I mean, the whole world has opened up for me.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't, do I still care what people think? Yes. And not nearly as much as I used to, like a little. I mean, there's certain people that will still judge you. But again, you said that's not a me problem, that's a they problem. It's
Mhm.
their problem. They're projecting their own values and ideas on everyone else because they think they're right
Yep.
for everybody. It's
Yeah.
right for them. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's right for everybody. So that's one of the big things that I've learned, is to trust my own heart and believe in myself and love myself enough that it's safe to, for one, come out and to use my voice and express it.
Mhm. And I believe that true authenticity, and if you feel differently, I totally respect that. True authenticity harms no one. So if someone's like, yeah, it's my authentic self to be racist, it's like, no, that's ego, and that's awful, and that's hate. Your authentic self doesn't hate. And does that make sense? It's like, your authentic self, if someone's like, yeah, my authentic self is meant to kick puppies, I'd be like, that I don't like your authentic self. One, I don't think that's your authentic self. I think you need therapy. Two, if that is your authentic self, I would love to talk to you down a dark alley with no cameras. Like, in my world, in my belief system, authenticity harms none. And I get that everyone can have their opinion, but if your opinion is like, oh, this group doesn't deserve to live, or they need to be hated, or they're subhuman, I'm like, your authenticity not really that authentic. It's not really shining bright like a diamond, now is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, authenticity to me is just being truthful with yourself.
Mhm.
Because it really, I mean, yes, there is fear of being judged. I mean, when I talk to my friends, it was like, yeah, we've known for years. It's about fucking time you figured it out. Yeah, exactly. And my sons, I mean, I have two sons that are in their early 30s, and I have three grandchildren with another one on the way, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. And I've lived more life in the last 2 years than I lived in the first 59 years.
Yeah, it's big, and it's like, for me, being my authentic self was dangerous. Like, when I came out in a small town, and it was not the safest place to do that. And I was met with like a lot of hate and a lot of confusion, and like, it's okay if you're that, but like, don't be out. Like, don't talk about it. Don't, this is something you should be ashamed of. This is, no, no, no. And I was sitting there going like, ah. And then once I left the small town and everything, it's a process. Like, it's not flipping on a light switch. Authenticity is a process, especially if you've had it buried for a few decades, it's, it takes the minute. And everyone's authenticity will look different. Like whenever I talk to people about finding their true voice, I don't know if you can tell, am loud all the time. There is not a quiet button. I whisper loud. Like I'm just a loud person, unless I'm like sleeping or watching a movie. And even then I'll talk. But people are like, but I'm not loud. I'm like, I'm not asking you to be loud. I'm asking you to be authentic. I know tons of people who whisper, and that's their real voice, is just calm and shy. And I'm like, if that's you, I love that. Please don't yell in some shrill voice because you think this megaphone is for you. It's not for everybody. And so that's the way I see it. It's like, you're not trying to be somebody else or be like, oh, this is the way to be authentic. It's like, if you're soft spoken, if you're introverted, if you're extroverted, if you're queer, if you're straight, if you're whatever, vegan, as long as you're not shoving it up anyone's ass, great. It,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? That like when people find their authentic self, it's actually a journey. It's not a light switch.
Yeah, life is a journey. I mean, it's a road, and it's a road that has curves. It's a road that has hills. It's a road where there's detours. And you just follow the path. And this is where you just follow the path that you trust. And it's that intuition. It's that little voice in your head that says, "Yep, that's the right choice. Yep, go ahead and say it." Like it's that kind little voice that's like your intuition is always kind, not always gentle, because sometimes you need a smackdown. And with the company that I got all my coaching certificates with, they call it Wanda. Well, as in the fish called Wanda. Basically, you get dead fished when you
Mhm.
have that aha moment and you go, "Oh, I didn't see it. The lesson was always there. You just you weren't listening to your intuition. You were listening to the other three voices: inner child, inner ego, inner critic. They
Oh.
think they rule the roost. They're there to teach you things and to make you aware of things. And they think they're there to protect you, but really they're actually doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually that thought in your head, like, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be enough. I'm unworthy. I'm unloved. I'm unseen. Like, just don't talk. Don't say anything because you're just going to embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas the intuition is going, just say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say it. And if you listen to that voice, it's telling you for a reason because whoever you're speaking to or the group you're speaking to needs to hear what you have to say. And you're doing a disservice to that group of people, particularly women, is if you stay silent, you're part of the problem as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to part of the solution.
Yeah,
So do I stand on a mountaintop and shout it out that I'm gay? No, I don't. But I don't hide it anymore either.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's the difference.
it's not the center of your existence. I know several people who make it their personality, and I'm like, get a hobby. But it's part of you. It's the same with like I like scrapbooking. That's part of me too. Um, and with it,
I used to scrapbook all the time.
I love it. I love it. I view like you said, the inner child, the inner critic, the inner ego. I see those as very two-dimensional. Like everything is very black and white thinking with those. This is good,
Yes.
this is bad, this is where my intuition I view as being like a watercolor, where it's like, yeah, you're safe here, say this. And it's like all, like you said, it's always kind, it's not always gentle, but it's not black or white. It's like, this is good, this is bad, you suck. It's you can try saying this, seems like an okay crowd. And you just learn from your intuition to be authentic.
Yeah. Because I know when I haven't listened to my intuition, the noise of the other voices gets louder.
Mhm.
And the more I trust my intuition and the more that I believe in it and I listen, so I turn the volume of that, it automatically turns the volume of the other three voices down. Do
Yeah.
they serve a purpose? Absolutely. Because everything that happens to you, good, bad, or ugly, is there to teach you something. And when you get the learnings of what you're supposed to learn, you break the pattern that you were in. That
Mhm.
pattern, I was in a pattern of denial and self-hate and worry and all those things. And when I broke that pattern, my voice came out.
I
I was
love
able to tell my kids comfortably. I was able to do this.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have done this 2 years ago. Not a chance. Too scary. Not safe. I don't deserve to say what I need to say because that's how I felt in my marriage. It
Yeah.
was very transactional.
Mm,
So I walked away. I made the decision when I made the decision that I'm putting me first.
mhm. I love
Is
that.
that selfish? No, it's not selfish. It's actually selfless because if you're keeping things to yourself, that's selfish. When you share part of you, you could be helping. You don't know how many people you could influence in a positive way who are scared to say whatever they want to say. And when they see someone, particularly my age, doing it, they're like, oh, it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to speak my voice. I can choose to or not choose to. It's up to me. And but it gives them that safe place to land. And if you deny them that opportunity, I don't know. Are you really doing what kind of service are you doing?
Yeah. I love that. So, if someone wanted to work on their authentic voice and meeting their authentic self, how would they get a hold of you?
My email is hockeymomld18 at rogers.com. And I'm going to spell Rogers because sometimes you guys in the States put a D in there. It's Rogers. So it's hockeymomld18 at rogers.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So I have my own personal one with my name. And I have one for my coaching company, which is Impact Your Life Coaching. And I do have a private one, and it's called It's Never Too Late.
I love
And I created that space so that people who want to join have a safe place to express themselves without fear.
Mhm. I
There's
love
no judgment. So that's something that I created on the masterclass I just finished last week. So it is private. I'm the only one that can approve who joins.
Mhm.
So, and there's questions that they have to answer typically. So, but yeah, and I'm planning on doing a webinar. I haven't set the date yet, but I can certainly make that available to your viewers for free. It'll be about a 60-minute webinar on communication and how it affects your relationships, good, bad, and ugly, and
Um,
some tools and tricks to give yourself something to stand on.
Definitely.
Drop that pebble in the water and watch the ripple go.
Mhm. I love it. So thank you so much for joining us and being here and participating. We appreciate you. To all the viewers, thank you for watching and participating. Remember, if you liked the show, if we entertained you at all, to like. Remember, if you want to see more of the shenanigans, because the shenanigans will never stop, you should follow and subscribe. And then if you have questions, comments, concerns, be sure to put them in the comment section. We are here to help. We are here to empower you to be your authentic self. Remember to be the hero of your own story and always be offensively authentic.
And remember, it's never too late.